Lately. I don't know what it is that's hitting me this time of year, but man, I've been getting some serious allergies.
Okay. Say your name.
My name is Mark Newhouser, Restoration Program Manager. Again?
Yeah, a little bit more.
My name is Mark Newhouser. I'm a Restoration Program Manager with the Sonoma Ecology Center.
Okay. Good. You ready? Go. Okay. If you could tell us about the restoration work that the Ecology Center does, sort of explain that part of what you guys do for people.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity. Should I introduce myself first?
No.
No?
No need.
Okay. Very good. The Sonoma Ecology Center, let's see, let me start again. Because you already know about the 3 programs. Richard Party already explained all of that?
Right.
Okay. The restoration program is focused on 3 major areas. That is doing on-the-ground restoration, habitat enhancement. The other is to involve the community in opportunities to do restoration work themselves, to actually experience and learn how to do it. And then the other is really more like education, where we work with the community to show them how they can be better stewards of their land.
And then if you could tell us about the different types of restoration work, whether, when it comes to land, waterways, pathways.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, basically what are different kinds of restoration work that you do, so people can get a better understanding of what it is that you're doing hands-on.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. It almost requires a little bit of history. When the restoration program first began, we were mostly focused on just community involvement, getting people out to do creek cleanups. And then through time, we began to focus on fish habitat restoration. And that was mostly through invasive weed control, native plant restoration, removing barriers to fish passage, such as this project here on Stewart Creek. But then later we realized that projects that we were doing really had to be multi-benefit. And then they started to incorporate not only restoration of habitat for fish and wildlife, but also recreation as an access, like the bike paths on the Nathanson Creek Preserve, but also educational opportunities where we can get students out to learn and do water testing and participate in restoration projects. But also we had to address flood control. So it became a really collaborative process of working with not only other organizations in the community, but with landowners, with regulatory agencies, and specialists who actually study and can determine whether or not any other conditions need to be met, such as flood control or public access. And so our projects have evolved to include multiple benefits, such as flood control, restoration, and public access and recreation.
When it comes to the reasons that restoration work needs to be done, if you could talk about, sort of these, restoring a waterway and what might have been there. This is a good example here, so people can understand what are some of the things you actually do, like removing buildings, removing roadways, bridges, dams, things like that.
This is where I need to give credit to the other organizations, okay? So I just want to preempt my statement by saying that. So, for example, Stewart Creek is a creek that has had a man-made barrier on it for many years. The previous owner was willing to allow us to do work on it, but then the property changed hands. And then it changed hands again, fortunately through an opportunity for the Sonoma Land Trust to acquire the property, which then created an opportunity to actually do the work through funding through the Department of Fish and Wildlife. It's a very collaborative process involving designers, hydrologists, as well as experienced construction companies who know how to remove physical barriers and then stabilize the creek so that fish can pass through them. The native steelhead trout is kind of our totem species in our watershed. It had been excluded from the upper reaches of Sonoma Creek because of this barrier and couldn't get to its spawning grounds. And so it was very important to not only identify the problem, but to get access, through either land ownership or access from a willing landowner, and then find the funding to actually build this. What the Sonoma Ecology Center is doing on this particular project is doing the habitat restoration component, which is mostly through invasive weed control and native plant restoration.
Now, for somebody who, say, has never heard of what restoration is, what I want to do is have you go back again and give like a very brief, maybe 2 or 3 sentence explanation of what restoration work is as we're trying to do these short spots.
Yeah, this is kind of a hot issue because restoration implies that you're restoring something back to its original condition, whether it's a piece of furniture or it's a habitat. These things are very difficult to determine because in many cases we don't know what the original condition was. We know that what certain plants were, we can look around us, we look for what is called a reference. And a reference site can be just a remnant population of native species, which are here, they're still here, there's not many, but if we find these reference sites, then we can know how to replicate that and restore a property or a habitat to its original condition. In many cases, we're doing what is more often called habitat enhancement, where what we're trying to do is bring a property, a site, a habitat back to a condition that will sustain life, that will provide both nesting, breeding, and foraging habitat for fish and wildlife. And that can be mostly through vegetation, we've found. Because once you provide the cover and the canopy, one of the main reasons why we restore habitat along riparian areas and streamside habitats is because that's where most life comes. That's where all the fish are, that's where most of your amphibians and reptiles, but also it's where most mammals and other creatures have to come to get water. And without water, they have no life. So we found that providing good habitat in these riparian zones is probably the best use of our time as far as doing restoration efforts. Are we getting it in between the big trucks?
We are. We are, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've been lucky to just have some cars recently and not a lot of big traffic jams.
Fuzzy.
I know
that's my muskrat, keeping me company.
Just don't bite it.
If you want me to, I can skin the monkey on that bar that's sticking out.
What is that thing? That's crazy.
No, I'm just kidding. Just had to mix it up a little bit. Oh, wait, time out. My orange thing is almost empty. Oh.
Let's go by and then we go for it. Basically, what I want you to do again, I'm sorry to keep asking the same
question. No, that's okay. If I'm not answering, there must be a reason.
No, you are. What we're trying to do is try to get 2 or 3 because if a truck goes by.
Oh, no, it's totally cool.
See what I mean? Yeah.
But I'll never say the same thing twice.
I know. Then we can edit it together again. So again, I want you to give me an explanation, a definition, which you already did, but it was so good about how restoration work isn't to actually restore it exactly to what it was before.
Yeah.
If you could tell me that story again, that was great.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a one-take guy. I can't do it. Well, it almost requires going back and talking a little bit about, whether you're a purist or not. When we do restoration, We like to actually collect seeds and propagules, like cuttings, from a site where we're actually going to do the restoration work. And the reason for doing that is manifold. You want to perpetuate your genetic stock, your local genetic stock, but you want to grow things that are most likely to survive. I mean, it's all about survival. So when you plant something, you want to have all the odds in its favor. So you plant things that you know will grow here. You look around and you see valley oaks, you see black oaks, and you see buckeyes, and you know that they'll grow here, and you plant them accordingly. And then you have different species that will grow better on the top of bank, and those on the mid bank, and those that actually will grow well in the stream, such as your alders and your willow. So when you're restoring habitat, you're looking for not only what your reference site is, what grows here, but also what you think will most likely survive. And in some cases, it isn't critical to be a purist about what plants you use. In many cases, you're required by the regulatory agencies and the permits that you're operating under to only restore it with native plants. And that's something we do. We actually have a nursery where we grow our own plants. We collect seeds, we collect cuttings, we grow plants, and then we bring them right back to the site and plant them and water them and care for them. And we do that. We have to care for sites for several years. And in many cases, there's anywhere from a 3 to a 5-year establishment period just to get the plants going, to assure the funders that, yes, they're survived and they will grow and they will, reach maturity. So that was a different tack, though, wasn't it?
But I like it. I like it. All right. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So